Welcome to another edition of Daily Airline News covering the search for MH370. I'm Jeffrey Thomas, and today we have a real treat for you. We're going to look at the fact and the fiction surrounding MH370. Delighted to say that we're joined again by UK aerospace engineer Richard Godfrey, who has perfected and developed the Whisper technology to track MH370. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you.
And I'm going to ask you to kick off again, as usual, with an update on exactly where Armada 7806 is right now.
Yes, Armada 7806 is making good progress towards Fremantle in Australia, getting closer all the time, around 500 nautical miles out, and is moving at quite maximum speed. So it'll actually get there earlier than originally predicted. And we're expecting it to arrive on the 4th of March around 8 o'clock in the morning local time in Fremantle.
Excellent. I'll be down there to take some photographs. That'll be great. So, as I mentioned in the intro, this is a whodunit, the fact and the fiction. I've never, in all my years of covering aviation events, and that goes back 50 years, I've never known an event that has so much fiction surrounding it as the disappearance of MH370. So I'm going to look at the books. There's been 150 books written about the loss of MH370, and I'm showing you some of those on the screen right now. The most truthful has been A Psychic's Guide to MH370, but there's titles like The Fate of MH370, Avenging MH370, The Zombie Plane, Found, I Survived MH370. And the interesting part about it, these books are all supposed to be factual, yet many of them depict a Boeing 777 as a 747, as an Airbus A320, even an executive jet. So they don't even bother to get the picture of the aeroplane right, and even though they're supposed to be espousing the truth about MH370. So that's the books. And Richard, you've got a summary of all the theories.
Yeah, I went into all the theories and all the myths on MH370. I made a list of the top 10, but there are many more. And like the 150 books, they can't all be right. So anyway, the theories: number one, the bizarre MH370 was taken by aliens. Then the sinister MH370 was taken by the Chinese or the Russians or the Americans. The conspiracy theories. There was a plot involving several governments and Secret Service agents. The protective, it could not possibly have been the captain because he's such a nice person. The emotional, I feel for the families and friends, they deserve an answer. The clairvoyant, I had a vision and I saw MH370. The unhelpful, I spotted MH370 in Google Earth and it crashed at the following latitude and longitude. I've received a long list of those latitudes and longitudes, and they can't all be right. Then you get the commercial. Oh, the best website for MH370 is. They get lots of hits and clicks and views and likes. You get the sensational. MH370 found. Please subscribe to read further. Just a clickbait to get you to subscribe. Then you get the telepathic. I have a sixth sense and I can do remote viewing. The pilot spoke to me and told me where he was going. Those are my top 10. Netflix came out with a documentary which sort of basically said, let's mix all of these 10 theories together and make a documentary. And sort of the bottom line of all of that is, well, MH370 is in Diego Garcia, or it's in Kazakhstan, or it's in the South China Sea. It's anywhere but in the Indian Ocean.
Yes, it's amazing. And of course, as we've discussed before, Richard, these books, these theories, these shoddy documentaries, all they do is take the relatives on a ghastly, gut-wrenching roller coaster ride and tear their hearts to pieces, which is it's really quite irresponsible. But let's focus on the facts. Let's talk about the aircraft, the data from the aircraft, and what we know.
Yeah, we have a lot of facts from Boeing. We know exactly how far and how long a Boeing 777 can fly and how long it can stay in the air. We're showing a table of the flight time and range from the first arc. We have data from the Malaysia Airlines engineering department. We know exactly how much fuel was on board, and we know the fuel efficiency of both engines on the actual aircraft 9M MRO used for the MH370 flight. There was 49,600 kilo of fuel in the tanks, and the last ACARS report at 1706:43 UTC showed 43,800 kilos remaining in the tanks. The Malaysian Airlines Engineering Department maintain what they call the Flight Operations Quality Assurance or FOCA data for each aircraft, including 9M MRO. We publish this data in the UGIB report. It's also available on my website.
Now, that's what we've got from the engineering departments, and that's what we've got from Boeing, but the aircraft itself gave us quite a bit of data as well.
Yes, the aircraft, when the transponder is switched on, broadcasts ADS-B data and sends ACARS reports via satellite at every 30 minutes. We also have, when the transponder's working, secondary radar data from the civilian radar in the area that are the normal ATC tracking of each flight. That lasts only until the transponder was switched off in the
Yeah.
cockpit. Um, and we have the raw ADS-B data, the raw radar data, and the raw ACARS data, which is very useful. We also know from the Inmarsat satellite data, the satellite was in communication with the aircraft around about every hour at least, sometimes more often, that the aircraft continued to fly for 7 hours, 37 minutes. We also know it was flying towards the southern Indian Ocean, and we also know it was flying until fuel exhaustion. So the aircraft appeared to be working fine. We have the raw satellite data from Inmarsat. We have the last civilian primary radar data up to 1851 UTC. The Malaysian military also released a single military primary radar last known point, but they never released the raw data to prove that.
Mm,
So it's about time they did, in my view.
indeed. So beyond the Malaysian Airlines and Boeing data, then the aircraft's data, and then the Inmarsat data, we then got the physical evidence of the crash with the floating debris and the drift analysis. So can you walk us through that, Richard?
Yeah, we have several models that we use. So we have a model of the drift across the ocean. We have a weather model of the Indian Ocean at all different altitudes during the flight. We have a flight path model which we use. We have physical evidence from 43 items of floating debris that have been recovered from around the Indian Ocean. And we know from the drift analysis where the floating debris most probably originated, and the general crash area near the seventh, the so-called seventh arc. So
Mm.
we have a massive amount of data, and again, all these various models are published on my website. You can download them.
Indeed, and just for viewers, there is always a link to Richard's website in the description below. And then beyond that data, of course, we've got this amazing new whisper data, which is the basis of this new search. Perhaps you can just talk us briefly through that, Richard.
Yeah, we started research into whisper 4 years ago. So this is technology relatively new in scientific terms and in its infancy. But it has been taken up by several universities and academics now who are doing large-scale studies. And I know they're about to publish a series of different academic papers. So that'll come more into the mainstream academic domain. Yeah, we
Mm.
use Whisper, and we came to a Whisper search area. Uh, a lot of the previous analysts had assumed that it was a straight line flight for the whole 7 hours, 37 minutes, or at least the latter part for 6 hours in the Indian Ocean was in a straight line. I mean, prior to the last turn into the Indian Ocean, there were actually several turns
Mm.
after
Indeed.
the diversion. So the assumption that there were no more turns after going towards the southern Indian Ocean is a very large assumption, and the whisper data actually shows that there were several turns and there was an active pilot right until the end. And some of the original studies assumed that this was a ghost flight and there was no active pilot. So you have to be careful what assumptions you make and what the configuration of the aircraft was to come to a correct conclusion.
Yeah. And talking of conclusions and pilots, an excellent resource for viewers who want to learn more about this is Mentor Pilot. And again, there's a link below. So, Richard, yes, I mean, when you add up all the facts and then balance it with the fiction, it is really so far apart, isn't it? I mean, the evidence is really concrete of where the aircraft must be, and there's not one shred of evidence to support any of the other theories whatsoever.
Indeed, and to my mind, when you bring together the Boeing data and the fuel data and the Inmarsat data and the drift analysis data and the whisper data and the performance of the Boeing and the weather en route, and you carefully look at all of that, and they all point to the same location in
Mm.
the southern Indian Ocean. And when all of those different elements from completely different scientific disciplines agree, then I think you have a very good case.
Look, you do indeed. So, Armada 7806 will be in Fremantle, well, in fact, south of Fremantle, at Henderson Shipyard. I think it's going to on March the 4th at 8 o'clock. We'll turn around and be out the next day, back out to the search area, probably back out to the southern two hotspots before moving north. So that's, and we're going to keep you up on a daily basis and bringing you all sorts of stories connected with the search for MH370. So, Richard, thank you very much indeed for joining us once again. To viewers, please subscribe to us, please like us, and do please send us your comments. We really do appreciate them. and we try and reply to them all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.